Welcome to How Women Inspire. Today we have my friend Ewa Ding, who is joining us. She is a brilliant product and design executive. She spent over 2 decades transforming all of our experiences, the user experience in Silicon Valley. She's that person who knows how to create that innovation and flair, the passion for people first design. And she really focuses on demystifying today the most critical thing for all of us, human-centered AI. She is going to share her perspective with us today on the AI space and also how UX design can play a critical role in making sure that the technologies are intuitive and accessible and fun for all of us. I think we all have had that experience when we started using it and we're like, wait, how do I ask the right questions, etc. She is the architect that helps everybody understand how to use the AI systems, and what an amazing resource for anybody building AI tools. So we're going to have a super fun conversation. And Ewa, I'm so glad we're going to have time together. Your enthusiasm about this is so contagious. I met you at a dinner, I think, and you were way across the room, and I felt like, oh my God, she is the person I need to know. So I'm so glad that we get to be together today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. You painted a picture, I'm not sure I live up to that expectation, but I did spend 20 years mostly working on cutting edge technology and very technical. And you know how hard it is to make a product full of data, full of stuff, and make it even, processable for
Well,
regulation.
I mean, you can have the best tool in the world, but if as a user I don't know how to get in there and access it, figure out how to use it, I'm going to give up. So you are the magic wand that everybody needs when they're building. Frankly, today I don't know how you do innovative technologies without AI. So, all right, before we get into all that nerdy technical stuff that you and I love to jam on, do you have a song that's like your walk-on song, or that song for the happy or the tough moments? Like, what is your theme song?
Well, I'm not much a music person, and I listen to very old songs. And there's this one song, I don't know if you know that too, by Pink Floyd. I'm a loyal Pink
Oh,
Floyd.
oh yeah. Well, yeah, that's my era for sure. Of course. Yeah.
That's the breathe. Like
Oh,
breathe, don't be afraid to care. I really love that. Don't be afraid to care.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that for so many of us, that kind of a reminder song is just like, listen, you're going to be fine. You're all good. What's the last time you needed to pull that out? Were you doing a presentation, or is there something coming up for you?
Well, presentations are probably okay. I think it's one recently, I left my 9 to 5 job. I really
Ah,
like it's urgent. I have a role to play. And especially after seeing some of the AI startup pitches, I was like, none of this, if I, I, according to me, they should not be released to the
yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. So, how did you even get started in AI? I mean, it feels to a lot of the people who are just getting used to using it, it's a year and a half old. But it has a longer lifespan.
Yeah, AI actually is very old technology. It's been there 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
It had its, as they describe, winter and summer. And now we are like at the peak, the peak of the attention because the large success of the ChatGPTs, right? So I was in engineering, and over the years, I had a exposure to AI technology because a bunch of them, like computer vision, robotics, these are all AI, not just ChatGPT, machine learning and stuff. But it was not until last year, and I was just mentioning that I was like, oh my God, AI is taking the world by storm, and I better learn. And, it's going so fast that I'm not even sure I can catch up. So after I left my job, I really start to dive into learning, but I wasn't focusing on trying to become a AI scientist or researcher. That was not my role, right? I focused on to learn what AI is capable of doing, what is good at doing, the core benefit of it, and also what it cannot do. What are the limitations? Why there's hallucination? So that really built a good foundation. And luckily, I got into this Stanford executive program, whole week immersive.
Yeah.
We learned everything about all the important aspect of AI, legal, and the workforce, everything. the faculty was world class, so that gave me a really good chance to catch up, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
then I start working on real AI application use cases. And that forces me to really digest what I have learned and say how I'm going to apply it. And from the angle that human-centered design, how do I deal with the new challenges that AI brought up? And there's a lot of really difficult challenges. And also, how do I use AI to really improve the user experience? And what some of the stuff AI can do, we probably have never seen before. So I'm very, very excited. So that's how I got into it.
You've been doing UX, user experience, for a long time as an engineer, right?
Yes.
So now what you're doing is you're taking that discipline to all the new AI technologies. What are you seeing as the biggest gaps in the human-centered design, or the problem with the user experience as humans with the AI companies that are out there now?
I think there are a lot of gaps. So as a UX designer, I do user-centered design. And the user-centered design is the core aspect of human-centered, but it's slightly narrower because it's limited to the user interaction with the product when you're using the product. But human-centered is much bigger scope because not only we have to consider meet users' needs, we also have to respect their value, right? Their dignity, and we have to address the ethical issues and so on and so forth. And human-centered AI, because the challenges, unique challenges AI has, and it's even much bigger scope. The gaps I've seen out there, I think we are still at the early stage of AI application. The
I think so.
ChatGPT is really not a typical application. I meant, you build something, a new application. I think at the initial wave, I would say the biggest problem is it doesn't have market. It wasn't solving a real problem. So most of the AI will just die because the AI companies, right, they will fail because, without a real problem,
It's a fun thing to play with. It's nice to turn on, but it's not exactly centered.
But that's how technology sort of evolves because it's like in waves, it iterates.
So how do you make it more sort of valuable in your daily life so it's ubiquitous and you can't live without it?
Yeah, it has a lot. I think if you look at now, everybody is using some form of ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so smart. For
I'm
me,
planning a vacation and I literally said, map out my days, 5 days here and 4 days there. I literally said, and do it for someone my age with the kind of stuff I want to do.
exactly. And think about AI. AI is so powerful. The main reason is it can learn all the knowledge there is in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
OpenAI spent billions of dollars to
Yeah.
train that.
Yeah.
Literally, it knows everything.
Yeah.
So you have this super brain, right? Take advantage of it. But at the same time, keeping in mind what kind of things that you don't have to worry too much. Just chat about
Yeah.
things and whatever. But if you do research, you have to use a reference. You have to make a decision upon something. Remember that just like any software, not only it has errors, right? Large language model has hallucination issues because it's so good at making up things. Some of the stuff is just made up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so fascinating. For people listening, we talked about some of the problems, but what are some real world examples of like human-centered AI? How should we want to?
There are a lot of examples human-centered AI, and before I give some examples, I also want to emphasize what human-centered AI really means. Right? We talked about user-centered design. We talk about traditional human-centered design that is a little bigger than the user-centered design. And human-centered AI, I think there are two major sort of principles that everybody needs to be aware of. One is we emphasizing augmentation over replacement. So be very clear, it is a tool that it's going to help us to be more efficient, to help us to get better, save our time and all that. But we should not design it to replace people unless it is a special situation that's dangerous for human to do. So it should benefit us as a whole.
So one of the portfolio companies we've invested in is somebody who has a PhD in narrative science. So understanding how to ask the right questions, right? And created an AI solution for super serious scientists and others who are trying to, where it takes them 30 hours to write a paper based on all their data and their source documents. If you ask the right questions in the right order, and that's what the tool that you're purchasing does. It's the narrative science of like how you create the report you're trying to happen. It goes from 30 hours to 30 minutes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So great application, but using expertise around narrative science so that you really understand how to get the user engaged in the right way, that human-centered design to be able to get the output. What are some of the other things that you feel like or the companies or solutions that you think are really exciting right now?
Oh, there are a lot of cool, exciting stuff, frankly, going on. I myself, my interest, I think things going on in healthcare is great.
Okay.
Use AI to do drug discovery because AI are really good at not only to do patent recognition, but patent discovery, like the patents you don't know. So for using AI to do drug discovery is totally amazing. And I'm also interested in robotics. I feel like, yeah, there are a lot of things that robots can do. And once I was on the trip and living in the hotel, then I had a little robot deliver a towel to me. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I went to a Korean restaurant and it was a robot delivering dishes to me. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, wow. There's a like sort of transformative sort of experience. Myself is really interested in the emotional side of behavioral. If I had a AI and with very high emotional intelligence and knows the behavioral science, can guide me to do something. Like think about it. We all have everybody in the Silicon Valley has a therapist, right? And many of us have career coach. And I'm sure in the future you can have any kind of coaches that you want at your fingertip, right? But those kind of personalized coach could nudge you to do some networking, or could help you to build your personal brand, could help you give you ideas how to negotiate with your boss. But yeah, but those are it sounds exciting, but very difficult to do because you don't want a machine in the form of machine or talks like a machine. You want it to be very approachable, right? You also want it to know you, know your context, know your speech pattern, know your culture. Need to be maybe even know if there's some context in other contexts you need to be aware of. And maybe you wanted to have some really high requirement for customization, like, oh, I want my AI coach to sound like James Bond. Or I want a career coach to be sassy and very good at making decisions. There's tons of stuff that you can do designing an AI that helps us. And that is very exciting for me.
I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not asking for a seat at the table. My friends, this is the first generation of us. We have a huge opportunity. We have power and influence and wealth. And we can start building the tables where we get the prime seats. Today, we want to invite you to join us as investors in venture. I know no one's asked you to do it before. It might be something that seems scary or foreign, but I promise you it's not that different than investing in a mutual fund where your retirement funds are. I want you to lean in and just learn a little bit more. How about making a commitment that in the next 12 months, you can give yourself 12 months to figure it out and to take a step? I want to invite you to be part of the new table of power and influence and wealth. You're invited. I want to sit at the table with you because we're going to make big change. We're going to make the world we've been dreaming of. So you've talked about how, to me, it sounds like, you've talked about how urgent it is really for companies to get up to speed in how to integrate AI in a human-centric way, but that doesn't replace necessarily the human's intellect. So, okay, I've seen a bunch of reports recently where like radiologists that use AI, some of them that are disciplined, use it as another view, another way in case they miss something. Others get lazy and they just use the AI, and that is actually causing mistakes to happen. They're less effective. You're more effective if you use it right, less effective if you use it the wrong way. So when you think about human-centered or how to protect against those kinds of over reliance, what should we all be keeping in mind?
You actually mentioned a lot of problems in that example. Actually, initially, the radiologists, that people thought they would just all go away because AI is smart. And, I look at these photos I totally can diagnose. Then they realize they're not good enough. So the radiologist who knows how to use AI actually now are much more valuable than the ones cannot use AI, because AI for sure has a place, right, in that whole process. So the ones who know how to work with AI can make it much more effective, right?
Yep.
Human oversight is important because you don't want let machines to make that
Yeah.
recommendation
Yeah.
on its own. However, nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
right? We make mistakes. So
And the
it's
AI
not
is really based on human, the source data, I think, is also the interesting thing. The machine has learned from humans, or the sources
absolutely.
largely from humans, right? And so
Yeah.
how do we create AI that, I don't want something that's all, 60-year-old white guy's view of the world. I want it to be more comprehensive, more relevant to me. I was working with the PR Council of America board members, and they were saying only 20% of all the technical and business references in the news are by women. So 80% by men. To me, that's not healthy sourcing for AI, or for my AI to use to get me the right outcome. A lot of people know about this. Like, a friend of mine actually created like the first facial recognition stuff for Google, and everybody was up in arms. And this is the thing, it didn't recognize brown and black people. And she was actually reasonably dark-skinned Indian woman, which is kind of fascinating, right? Even somebody who creates it, who's dark-skinned, was not keeping that in mind, because the source documents and all the stuff seemed to be.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it, right? The data we generate, and we as a society is not perfect.
Yeah,
So the data reflects all
yeah,
the biases that we have,
yeah,
right? So what very interesting point, that AI is unlike any other software we had before. Before, it was all by algorithm. You know that it's supposed to be accurate, right? AI is different. AI want to simulate us, and we
yeah,
are not perfect. And
yeah,
then we have to spend all the time and the effort to make it better than us, because
yeah,
we don't want to have bias. We don't want to have this. So a lot of work goes really to, that clean that data. And AI bias comes from multiple factors. One, first of all, foremost is data, and also, but algorithm can also create bias, and the user interaction can also add to the bias, can amplify the bias, because AI, one good thing that one of the benefit that it has is continues to learn from user behavior. Now think about that, behavior itself will have bias. So it keeps
yeah,
learning that. And
yeah,
also in deployment, right? When you have AI result, how do you make decisions that could have a bias too? So there has to be a guardrail, a ethical sort of guideline in the design process. So there are steps to take to clean the data, to add diversity
yeah,
data set, right? To use
yeah,
diversity data set, and then to do thorough testing. It has to be tested. A lot of you know why that is so important. The result of AI is not predictable. So
yeah,
traditional software testing is very difficult to do on AI. I mean, think about big failures, some of the big failures, like once Google marked the African American, I think that was back in 2015, 10 years ago. Then they mistakenly taken the African American as gorilla. They,
oh
labeled
Jesus,
as
oh my God,
yeah,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Uh, and Amazon had a hiring tool that only recommended male candidates, no female.
Yeah.
Apple Card credit limit that for women is just much, much lower than men.
Wow, isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
So
Yeah,
you wouldn't, you probably would think that those big
yeah,
companies did some testing. The thing is, you cannot test all of it. You
yeah,
cannot test
yeah,
all the scenarios.
yeah. And the dynamism of what you're drawing from every day. So there's the, how do you design any AI tool to pull the right kind of information, test it, and have sort of some guardrails? But also, how do you have the human interface that's using rational, in looking at, like, Wait, double check. Should we be giving women lower credit rates than men? Like, that doesn't make sense. What are the how do we test for the obvious mistakes that are coming out of it, is what I'm hearing from you. So everyone is using ChatGPT. What do you think is an ideal conversational AI interface that's maybe a little more robust? Because right now it feels really sort of like one directional almost.
It's just one box, right?
Right, right.
You've
It
had
doesn't
the
allow
chat
me to say this wasn't helpful. I just have to keep trying to
exactly,
do prompts.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, I don't think OpenAI released ChatGPT, with any particular use case in mind, and they
yeah,
just want to prove the technology actually, is
yeah. Well,
great.
it does. It does
Um,
something. Yeah, it's
yeah, it
just,
has something.
oh, it's
Um,
got flaws.
so think about the difficulty we start to encounter. One is, to me, it was like I use ChatGPT to ask questions to do research, and a lot of times I have to copy the whatever that result into another document so I can synthesize, right?
Yeah,
That's difficult. I was like, why can't you, why you keep going away? Can you just stay
yeah,
there,
yeah,
And because they're useful to me. It's not that transient. It's not that transactional like a chat. Because
yeah,
they model it after chat. I say something that I don't have to repeat, right?
yeah,
But when I use that, the result of it for other things, I need to be a little longer lasting. So that's one thing. So the newest release of Claude has a separate window, but it's sort of the functions are very limited. So, and then another thing is, I don't know which ChatGPT do you usually. You use OpenAI ChatGPT?
OpenAI. Yeah. I mean, I use a couple different things now because I've invested in a couple companies, but OpenAI is probably
Yeah, I also
the
use
most.
a couple of different ones, but my favorite is Pi. Pi is not the smartest. Pi is not the fastest, but Pi is the only one, and I use multiple ones for different purpose. Pi is the only one I'm compelled to say hi and thank you.
Oh,
With
interesting.
the other GPT, I just say do this, do that.
Yeah. Because the
With
human
Pi,
interface. Yeah. That's a
yeah, with Pi, you
big
feel
change.
like it's somebody you're talking to
Yeah. So
because
you are
Pi
really
is
chatting
just
with them. Uh-huh.
yeah,
Right.
they have their own AI that has emotional intelligence built in to they can recognize your emotion. And that
Yeah.
is actually a pretty tough thing to do, right? And the Pi remembers you. If you go, I go ask ChatGPT who am I, they're like, I don't know, I'm not supposed to remember you. But you ask a Pi, say, of course, I've been working with you for a long time. I can write you a value proposition,
Nice. Nice.
right? So
All
that
right.
level of
Interesting. So yeah,
personalization.
it starts to become more useful to you personally. I have so many more things I want to talk to you about, and we're out of time. I feel like we're going to have to at 2.0, Iwa. So, as sort of how can people find you? And do you have a last piece of wisdom or advice that you can give to our listeners?
So I'm on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to connect with anyone. And also, I just setting up this community called the UX for AI. If anyone's interested in how to make AI for people, join us. You can find me on LinkedIn. And one piece of advice, I really like to say that AI, and I know a lot of women are kind of uncomfortable, right? With some of the AI stuff, especially AGI and stuff, we are more in tune with the human side. But I don't think AI is going away,
Yep.
right? AI is here to stay. So what we can do is we'll become informed user. Take time to learn what AI can and cannot do. Figure out how to be involved. We should demand that AI tool that we're using are safe and protect our privacy. Don't leave the big decisions to the handful powerful individuals or organizations because AI has huge potential to completely change our future. So we need to make AI work for us, not the other way around.
Well, that is the mic drop moment if I've ever heard one. Thank you so much for coming and playing in the sandbox with me. I think you just named all the things that all of us are concerned about and a whole bunch of solutions. So thank you so much. I look forward
Thank
to
you, Julie, for
2.0.
having me.